on the first Thursday every month, we do question and answer. And nothing that I say tonight or any night is written in stone anywhere, as far as I know. This is not the truth. It's not like the one and only answer to the question. The best we can hope for is that what I'm saying is like a finger pointing to the moon. And if you haven't seen Enter the Dragon, you should watch this, one of the best all-time martial arts movies. But Bruce Lee's talking about this idea of the finger pointing to the moon, and the student like looks at the moon and he whacks him on the head and he says, "Don't look at the finger and miss all that heavenly glory." So what I'm saying is not the truth. It's just kind of pointing you in the direction. And if you find that this is not the right direction for you, then go find a different direction. So when you ask me questions tonight, try to ask me something that is something to do with meditation, your internal practice. Can be anything that has to do with like your internal life. Don't ask me about the 4 positions of a front kick, something that's got to do with, you know, forgiveness, meditation, mindfulness, whatever. Just scoot over this way, maybe, so I'm not yelling at you. So any questions? And if you have a question at home, you can type it. If you are on Instagram, and you can raise your hand, and I'll try to see you on that tiny little square over there, Tanya. And if you're here, raise your fleshy hand. I can see you very easily. Any questions? Hudson? Mm-hmm. I got it. So first of all, has anybody else ever experienced this? You had a discipline or a thing you know you're supposed to do, and then you missed. Great. And it's a slippery slope. It's the slipperiest of slopes. It's like a glass mountain covered in ice, and you're standing on a pad of butter. So it is so common. This is the whole thing about discipline, is that it's hard. If it were easy, then it would not be a problem. You wouldn't have to discipline yourself. So it's not me saying that to downplay your experience. It's that is the nature of it, right? And so my first piece of advice for you, and this is in chronological order and in order of importance, is don't slip in the first place. If you can avoid that first misstep or that first day that you miss of your meditation, for example, then you're gold. It is so much easier to keep the momentum going. I mean, really, discipline is like I'm driving in my car and I'm already going 70 miles an hour. It takes very little to continue going 70 miles an hour. But you take a day off, it's like you slam on the brake and your car is stopped. And then it takes so much to get back up to that speed, right? So momentum is not something to be taken lightly. It can really help us in the good ways and in the bad ways. You can get momentum going in the wrong direction too, of course. And you miss a couple of days of meditation, for example, now you've got bad momentum. So what you really want to do is keep it going if possible. Now, when you do notice, and it's great that you notice, first of all, that you've kind of slipped on some of your disciplines, and then it's good that you notice how much of an impact it's having on you, because a lot of people slip very easily back into their old ways of being, and it feels so comfortable that they don't even recognize it. So that's good. Recognizing that you've got a problem is the first step after just not getting the problem in the first place. So now what? I would say as soon as you can get back on it, the best. So if you miss one day and you can get right back on it, great. So that momentum works like, imagine now you've got a boulder on top of a hill, and if you're standing right next to it with your hand on the boulder, that doesn't let it roll down at all, then the next best place to be would be like one step away, because the sooner you catch it, the less momentum it has and the easier it is to get back on track. If you're standing anywhere down on the bottom of the hill, it's going to crush you. So the next day, and you can remind yourself logically, I know that if I wait longer, it's only going to be worse, so I'm going to do it now. whatever it is that you're talking about tonight, as soon as meditation is done, or if meditation is one of the things, great, you're going to do it in 15 minutes, that you want to get right back on it as quickly as possible. And it is helpful, I think, to remind yourself that you are human and it is okay. It is part of the whole practice, right? Part of meditation is that you miss a day, or you have days where your meditation is not as good or whatever. Part of your disciplines and the rest of life is the same thing. So you remind yourself that you're human. That means that the missing is part of your life and part of your experience, and you learn from it and then get right back on it. The last thing I'll say is find people who are going to hold you accountable and motivate you, be in your corner. So if you tell people, this is what I'm doing, these are my disciplines, and they're asking you about it and reminding you about it, or at least you know that somebody knows that you're supposed to be doing this can motivate you to keep going. And if you tell somebody who's just going to be a jerk about it and they just make you feel bad about missing, that's not very helpful, versus somebody who is really in your corner and is going to try to motivate you to get back on it. And I'm happy to be that person. If you guys have a discipline that you're working on and you're like, Steve, this is what I'm trying to do this year, tell me about it. I'll ask you about it, or you can tell me I slipped up, and I'm not just going to be disappointed in you. I will try to give you something that will kind of motivate you to get back on it. And you want as many people like that in your life as possible. And you can't expect everybody to be like that, but have at least one or two people that you can have around you that will give you that energy to keep going, or to get right back on the path as soon as you realize that you've fallen off of it. Other question, Mary? So you're talking about making a change, but is it particular to like a change that you're trying to make, or just wondering in general about the balance between faith and logic? Mm-hmm. Of course. Are we talking faith like faith in myself, or like faith like from a religious standpoint, or what? Of course. Yeah, that is it. So, boy, I have thought about this so much, and of course, it's the logical part that thinks about it, and it's like, what's in our brains try to think about what's right and what's wrong, and like what's better and what's worse. And really, I think that it's kind of an unhelpful way to think of faith versus logic. You should have both. Like, what is faith? Whether you're talking about I have faith in something that's in a book that's millions of other people believe in, or it's faith in just like I think that I can land this punch on somebody, or I think I can move out of the way. You have to believe in something that has not happened yet. You have to be able to visualize and have a direction or an intention to go in. And then sometimes your logical brain will support that. Your logical mind will say, yes, I know that I can do this because I did it yesterday. And sometimes your logical brain will say, no, I can't, because the last time I did it, I got punched. And so there is a balance there, right? And it's hard to give a mathematical equation for exactly what the balance should be. I do know that you will find yourself oftentimes unbalanced in one direction or the other, whether it's faith, logic, or anything else that seems to be like two opposing kind of forces. And you might feel sometimes and recognize, I know I'm too much in my head. I know that I'm trying to logic through everything, and I'm not allowing myself to kind of let my faith or my intention or what I believe to kind of take over in any way. It's like I'm pure logic. Or I'm on the other hand, I'm not letting logic guide me at all. It's pure faith. It's just like, I hope this happens, and it doesn't work, and I'm refusing to learn from my mistakes. I just keep going based on faith. And this balance is key, right? intuition is kind of related to faith, right? We have things that sometimes we'll recognize, this is my intuition, and then your logic brain will kind of get in the way. We talk about mushin, that's what this wall scroll says, means no mind. And a great example for mushin that many of you have experienced before is like you try to throw away a piece of paper, you crumple it up and you toss it in the trash, and it just goes in effortlessly. You didn't think about it, right? And then you're like, ooh, let me do that again. That was awesome. I'm going to try again. I'm going to try harder this time. And then you mess it up because your brain gets in the way. So intuition can work with your body. It can work with decisions that you're making. And so we want to be able to kind of let that do its thing. And oftentimes it's like I'm able to take in so much information kind of subconsciously that my logical brain can't quite process. So there is absolutely a time and a place for both things. So my simple answer for you today will be try to feel where you're off balance, one or the other, right? Am I letting my logical brain stop me? Or am I letting my faith or lack thereof kind of stop me or cause me to go in a way that's unsafe or not really useful? When you're making a change, you have to have faith. You have to be able to visualize or conceive that this change will happen, right? You have to be able to also check that. It's like, I mean, a ridiculous example is like, I'm going to try to change into a bird and fly out the window. Your logical brain has to say, no, if I jump out the window, something bad is going to happen to me. And there is a limit to that. And it doesn't have to be that dramatic or ridiculous before you can kind of see it, right? But you'll kind of know yourself, especially through meditation. You'll kind of start to get in touch with the thoughts that you're having. Do I have these recurring thoughts that sound like I can't do this? Or do I have these recurring thoughts that are just pure fantasy and it's like I can do anything? You want to be able to recognize that and then bring it back to reality without stifling or killing your belief, your faith in yourself, your faith in whatever it is that you're trying to do. It's kind of a cop-out answer, but it fits with our meditation, so it's great. The perfect answer for tonight. Other question? Yes.
So I can see and I can feel how meditation is helping with the other side of martial art, physical aspect.
Mm-hmm.
Can you explain if it's more mental or also physiological or both?
The help that it's having on your physical martial arts?
Yeah.
So specifically, like how is meditation helping, punching, kicking, sidestepping, all that stuff? And there are a couple of different levels of this. First, remember we meditate in the beginning of class, right? And one of the reasons we do this is to clear our minds so that we're better able to just learn and be present for whatever is about to happen. And this is a great way to use meditation for anything in life. You have a lot of stress going on, you meditate, let go of it, clear your mind. You have a difficult problem that you're trying to solve. There's a difference between meditating on a problem, which you can just sit there and write in a journal or something, and I actually meditate to clear my mind so that when it's time to go back to it, then I'm in a better place to be able to handle it, right? And that's true anytime you're about to kind of take in new information. You want to create that clearing. If you show up to class and you're thinking about all of the terrible things that happened on your way over. My car wouldn't start, couldn't find a parking spot. I tripped on the first step going to the door, and you come out on the mats and you're like, all that stuff is swimming in your head. You're going to be awful. So clear your mind. On another level, there is this concept again of mushin, which is certainly related to having a clear mind. So no mind is like, let's say that you're doing a drill where somebody's swinging mitts at you, or later on you're sparring with somebody, and you line up in front of Hudson and you start thinking, the last time we did this drill, he hit me. Now I'm worried that he's going to hit me again, right? That's something that also in that moment you have to be able to let go of that baggage that you're taking into that specific drill. But in that moment, you want to have nothing in the way. So martial arts is also meant to be a moving meditation, and you should be able to do this ideally with so many different things in life, right? I can walk, and that can be a moving meditation. I can sweep the floor, clean the dishes, and that can be a moving meditation. That causes us to be able to really be present and enjoy it in the moment. And you can even enjoy somebody punching and kicking at you, right? But it also frees up your body to be able to respond instantly. So if somebody starts throwing a punch at you and you start thinking, that's a front punch, what do I do from a front punch? You've already been punched, right? If you let go of that thought and you're just totally present with what's happening, then you'll move like lightning, right? And it's the same thing. You probably have this experience like driving. You know, you're driving, and as soon as you start thinking, wait a minute, how do I operate this car? You're going to mess something up. You start walking, you start thinking, wait, how do I walk again? You get in the way of what you already know how to do. So, on a very important but very subtle level, that's what meditation is doing for your physical practice, is you are letting go of that little thought that tries to interject and interrupt and second guess or try to, you know, do things step by step. Once you've done it enough times, then you can just let go of all of that, and you must. So if you really stand a chance of being able to, you know, move fast enough or do anything that requires that instant speed, it's because there's no mind in the way, or you're in the state of no mind. There are lots of other great ways that your meditation should be interacting with your martial arts. There's the opposite end of it too. Your physical practice should also be impacting your meditation, whether it be because, you know, you're just generally in better shape so you can sit for longer with a better posture, or it is like I'm really connecting to my breath as I'm moving, and I'm connecting to my breath in meditation. And that happens vice versa. Obviously, the more you pay attention to your breath in meditation, the more you're able to pay attention to your breath as you're doing the physical part of martial arts. But it's all very much related. I think the most obvious stuff is, though, am I tense and rigid mentally? That leads to physical tension, and it leads to me stopping and not just letting things happen like that. Other question? If you guys have a question at home, I'm not positive that I can see your little hand. Should it show up there? They got such a tiny screen. If you have a question, wave your hand like crazy. Nope, no questions. Other questions here? You had one, Catherine. Great. Way better than not having anything to look forward to or stress about. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Let me catch people up real quick who can't hear you. Doing an event, and there's going to be the event, but it's the aftermath of the event, and you're having a hard time choosing what, you know, first of all, do I just let them choose, or do I make a choice of what we're going to do after the event? So go ahead. Mm-hmm. Do you want to give me any more level of detail on any of this so I have an example to go on? Yeah, because I have an idea, but it's very fluffy right now. So go ahead. Mm-hmm. 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 Okay. I got it. Yeah, the real problem is you choosing. You're in a Baskin Robbins, and it's like, who can possibly choose between 31 flavors of ice cream? And they're all awesome. I mean, I've had some ice cream that's not so great, but usually it's good. That's the problem, right? And it it the truth is, and I think it's good, and you kind of recognize this, is like any of them would be great for the people who you're speaking to. They'll all kind of lead in a similar enough direction. I assume you've already taken out the options that are bad. It's not like, oh, I could go in and speak to their business, or they could just go, uh, they could like your Facebook page. I mean, that's okay, but it's not very useful. Or yeah, I was trying to think of a really dumb thing that has nothing to do with it. Or they could go eat a hamburger. It's fine. I mean, hamburgers are great. It's not going to really help with a follow up with your business, though. So yeah, the issue is really kind of you being able to choose, and then I think in a situation like this, also not second guessing and feeling really good and powerful and empowered about the choice that you're making. And so I think that it's good to remind yourself that any of these things are going to be great. And so when you choose one, I mean, if you can, from some kind of logical perspective, see like what is going to be the best, and then if there is one that's actually the best, then just choose that. Or if you can get to two or three that are really the best, and then everything else is slightly worse than that, then that helps you to eliminate those things. And you might bring in some feeling or some intuition to this, and it's like, I keep going back to this one, and it really feels like the right thing, and I can't really logically say why, but it really just feels like the right thing. Okay, at the end of the day, once you have chosen this thing, and look, if you wait long enough to decide what you're going to do, you'll wake up one day and find that it has already happened. And this is what Steve Brown always said, right? You're like, I don't know what to do for my career. Like, I kind of want to be a teacher, but I also kind of want to be a professional surfer, or it would also be nice if I could, you know, cook or whatever. And then you just keep going back and forth about it. And one day you wake up after spending your entire life in school, and it's like, I've got 10 PhDs, but I never surfed even one time. Then you'll realize that it has happened already. And so make a choice, stick with it, feel great about it. And that's part of our practice too. I know I'm tiptoeing around the answer here, but it's kind of going back to what I was saying before with these guys. Like if somebody throws a punch and you think, I could sidestep this way, or I could sidestep this way, and you're not sure what to do, you've been punched. You have to make a choice and do it right away. So the only bad choice is a non-choice. When is this thing? Yeah. Better hurry up. You better make this choice. You keep waiting any longer, you're going to have to do what I always do, which is say, anything that you want to do is great as long as it's not this, this, or this. Yeah. So make the choice. And I can't tell you what is the right choice, of course. But that's, I think knowing that any of these choices that you've kind of whittled it down to are going to be good will kind of free you up, maybe to let intuition step in and say, this feels right, this feels like the right one, go for it, go with it. And don't be afraid, this is something that I'm not great at, but don't be afraid to make the choice that is going to really expect more from people or cause them to become something bigger, right? This is something that I'm pretty good at in the realm of martial arts, because I have so much data that shows me that people can really step up, and I really believe in people. I have that faith that like I know that you can do this. And sometimes that, comes back to bite me when I expect them to do something they can't really do yet, but usually it works out fine. But outside of the dojo, sometimes I have that where it's like, I don't want to, push people too far. I'm afraid that I'm going to ask too much of them, and then they're not going to like the fact that I'm asking so much of them. So feel free to really expect it. It's not necessarily what's going to work out the best for you personally, but it is what really will ask the most of them or expect the most of them. And you totally get this idea, but for everybody else, like, one sec, thinking of somebody as being a giant rather than thinking of somebody as being small. And I don't mean physically, I mean like I am really capable of so much. If you hold people to that, then they'll surprise you sometimes. So take that into consideration. Good. Of course you can. Go ahead. Yes, please. And you guys can sit comfortably. Yeah. Other questions? Yes, Stella. Mm-hmm. Yes. If you're not meditating through pain, you're not meditating enough. And I mean that because if you meditate for longer, something's going to start hurting. But also, if you're meditating every day, you're going to have days that just are not great. Physically, you're going to be in pain for sure. And if you maybe this is something similar to what Hudson's been experiencing, but I will say that this is a constant struggle for most people, where you have some pain or something that is like, it's going to feel like an excuse that is so tempting that it doesn't feel like an excuse. It's a reason. And of course I can't meditate with this hangnail. I mean, how could you possibly expect me to meditate with this toe that kind of hurts a little bit? But, and there will be pains that of course you can't actually meditate or sit still with. You've got something where it's like, I have to put my body in this position because my leg's broken. You can't meditate, okay. But I've never meditated with a broken leg before because I've never broken my leg. But I'm sure I could find a way because I'm not going to skip meditation. But you've got a dull pain that it's manageable. It's not great by any stretch, but it is it's something that you can tell you can, or at least you're hoping that you can kind of get past, right? So first, try to avoid the thing that gave you the pain in the first place. Adjust your sitting position if you need to. If you absolutely had to, and I'm sure I've done this once or twice in my life, it's so bad that I literally have to just be laying down. Okay, recognize the limitation in that. You're gonna start to fall asleep, and then you're sleepitating, not meditating. So try to be in a position where your back is upright, whether you've got pillows behind you or you're sitting in whatever position you need to, that's okay. But let's talk about it. I'm actually meditating and I've got this dull pain. How do I deal with that? So one school of thought is I'm going to try to actually focus on the physical sensation of the pain. That's not totally wrong. It can work. I personally don't love that because then the more I focus on the pain, the more it kind of takes over everything, and then kind of the rest of my body will start to hurt a little bit. It'll become quite stressful sometimes. And you probably heard me talk about this in my Red Sash meditation, which was 2 hours long. And like the first hour was great, and the second hour was absolutely the most brutal hour of my life because my hips hurt so much that I really thought, this is so bad, I'm going to throw up from the pain. How can I possibly be meditating? I just gutted it out, and it was terrible. And I told Steve Brown, he asked, how was your meditation? I was like, that was the worst hour of my life, sir. But that was a sharp pain. It was a burning kind of sharp pain. So a dull pain is a little bit easier to let go of and a little bit easier to kind of breathe through. And I do believe that even more sharp or burning sensations you can kind of let go of. And if, like me, it doesn't work so well for you to try to focus on the pain itself. And remember, I'm not saying focus on the pain in the way that most of us do, which is you feel the pain and you think, I'm going to die, or like I thought, I'm going to throw up from the pain of this. It's not thinking about the bad repercussions of this. It's literally just the physical feeling of the pain, which can help it to kind of dissipate. But if that doesn't work for you, then focus back on the breath, right? And if you need to, you can focus on like actually counting the breath. And this could happen with you guys if you're meditating. Maybe it's your first time meditating, or you're just really struggling and you're thinking like, just focusing on the physical sensation of the breath is so boring, it's really hard to stay focused on that. So then I start counting the breaths, or I start counting seconds. I'm counting to 5 as I breathe in. I'm counting to 5 as I breathe out. That's okay too. You want to try to let go of it as soon as you can. So maybe I start counting breaths and I realize the pain is kind of gone. And so then I can just let go of the count and just focus on the breathing again. But really, what is meditation if not letting go of some kind of pain? It might be physical pain in some cases, but it is very often some kind of emotional or mental pain. And this is part of our practice, is being able to recognize that and let it go. And we're returning to the breath. And focusing on the breath can calm our mind, can calm the body. It usually has that impact. So whether you are letting go of mental or physical pain, I think just returning to the breath and being really on it, right? You don't focus on one breath and then let your mind wander again, because it's going to wander to something that is either painful physically or mentally, or you'll find your way there, right? You start heading away from the breath and it's like pretty soon you're thinking about something that you're stressed out about, something that you have to get done. So I'll finish with this because I've talked for too long already. But part of the idea with meditation is we are practicing returning to the breath, practicing recognizing when your mind wanders as soon as possible, right? If you can recognize, back to what I was talking about with Hudson, if I can recognize it like instantly, then I can stop that bad momentum of the thought and return back to the breath. So as soon as you can recognize it, and then you are practicing keeping your focus and your awareness on the breath. So then rather than your mind wandering back to the pain, you'll be able to hold it in one place. And sometimes you're going to have a meditation that is just a bad meditation where it's just physically painful, and you want to be careful not to give up too easily on it, because then your body's going to start to create phantom pains. And I'm not joking about this. Your body's going to start to create phantom itches and stuff where it's like, I know how to get out of this. I hate meditating, so I'm going to start to create, it's not a conscious thing. It's something that your ego or something subconsciously is going to start to create these pains. And then it's like, I know anytime I have a pain, I get up and I stop meditating, because it's difficult for your mind to meditate. So it will come up with anything, any excuse. And of course, if you have an actual injury, that's something not to ignore. It's something to pay attention to. But if you can, sit in a way that's comfortable and safe and just let it go and keep coming back to the breath. So with that, let's sit comfortably. Remember that you guys can sit on your knees. You can sit cross-legged. You can sit with your legs extended if you need to. Just try to sit in a position so that your knees are not above your hips. So if your knees are even with or below your hips, you're good. If your knees are really sticking up high, then you're going to have a tendency to have your legs fall asleep, and that will be a very difficult and painful meditation. Your spine is straight. So with your chin parallel to the ground and your shoulders rolled back, you want to be in a good, comfortable, kind of stacked position. So you're balanced as effortlessly as possible without having to tense anything. If you start to slouch, try to immediately roll back to a good position. Your eyes are closed, and your eyes are slightly raised up to the point between your eyebrows, or you can just think about raising your eyes up like you're looking at a point out in the distance that is a little bit above your own head. And that raising up of your eyes will help you to stay awake and focused. And it will help you to let go of your other physical sensations. If your eyes are pointed forward, or you'll notice if you do have some kind of a pain that you're paying attention to, your eyes are going to kind of drift, almost like it's looking at the thing that hurts. But try to have the eyes raised up, and you're going to associate that position with a raised consciousness. And from here, we'll take a few deep breaths together. Begin with all the breath out, breathing in through the nose. Hold it for a few seconds at the top and breathe out. In from the belly. Hold. Out. Try to slow down and deepen your breath in, hold, out. Really focus on the sensation of the breath as it comes in through the nose or as it's filling the belly. Focus on that full feeling as you hold it for a beat, and then feel the breath leave the body. One more deep breath together. And out. Now finish with a double exhale, and then just let the breath come in and let the breath go out. So you're now no longer trying to breathe in any specific way. You're just allowing the breath to happen. It flows through you. And when your mind wanders, gently bring it back to the breath. Your mind will wander. So instead of making yourself wrong or instead of beating yourself up, just recognize that as a thought. You can just say the word in your mind, thought. So there's no judgment there. You're just recognizing a thought, which is a good thing. And then releasing that thought and returning back to the breath. You do that as many times as you can throughout the meditation.